Good morning and welcome back to my channel. I know I look a little crazy, but I did want to get just a little bit of footage of this in. So I have attempted to do a Flexi Rod set. I just wanted one shot of the Flexi Rods in my hair. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. But I'll come back on later this morning when I've taken the Flexi Rods out, and then when I separate it and see how it looks. Hello, and I'm back as promised. So there's going to be a clip before this of me with Flexi Rods in my hair. So this is my first attempt at doing a Flexi Rod set. I think I mentioned in a previous hair video that I was probably going to attempt to use Flexi Rods and Perm Rods because I have both. You know how you get something in your head and then like you just won't like get it out of your head. Like at first I wasn't gonna do it, but I changed my mind. So this is the result. I don't know if it's very clear, but I think it actually turned out pretty nice. I'm actually surprised. It's funny because this is not necessarily like a style that I would wear like all the time. Like I definitely prefer twist out, you know, that type of thing, like smaller curls instead of like the kind of big ones that you get when you do a Flexi Rod set. I think I might move locations to see if the lighting is better so that you can see it better, but I'll do that in a minute. So just a couple of things. One, I did this on my hair after it was washed and conditioned. I did not blow dry it first. I know that that's like a popular method. I think probably just for elongation. But it is the summertime. And these past few weeks have been extremely humid and hot, like 90-degree hot. And it just didn't feel like blowing my hair out if I was just going to go outside and it was just going to go poof on me. We're kind of like on a cool down next week, which kind of sucks. Because we've had all this 80-degree weather, and then my birthday's next Tuesday, and it's going to be like 73 degrees and raining. And you know, I get that oppressive heat takes people by surprise, but it's like, but that don't mean I want it to be cold again. And yeah, to me, 73 degrees in June is cold. Like, I don't like that. Especially because next Tuesday is my 40th birthday. I would like nice weather on my 40th birthday, but you know, whatever. If I'm not mistaken, it was raining on my 30th birthday too. Anyway, but yeah, so it's gonna be cooler, so I'm not too worried about like humidity or anything like that. And like I said, just because it's summer, if I attempt to do another Flexi Rod set, or like next week, I think I'm gonna try Perm Rod. I just don't, you know, what's the point of blow drying it out and being all sweaty and getting your hair dried just to go outside for, like I said, to go poof. Now, when it gets cooler, like in the fall or winter, then I will try it on blown out hair. But for right now, if I do this again, it'll always just be on my natural curly hair. Because I don't mind, because like there's like, you know, you can obviously see like the texture at my roots. And that really doesn't concern me because I like when you can see that texture and that, you know, wave at my roots. That's just, you know, personal preference. Um, but I also don't have like a lot of Flexi Rods, which also determines how your hair looks because I kind of bought them on a whim. So like same thing with the perm rods. So I only have like 10 perm rods and I only have 10 Flexi Rods. So the way I did it, just so because I just knew if I just took random pieces, it was going to be confusing. So um, after I did my hair. So basically, the products that I use, I have had the same two products for a couple of months now, and that's the Camille Rose Aloe Whipped Butter Gel. And recently, if you've seen my previous video, I bought the Wrap and Set Foam from Sacred. So I've been using the Aloe Whipped Butter Gel as basically like a leave-in, which you can. And just like a very light leave-in because it is thick. It is a butter gel, but I basically just use it on my damp hair for detangling purposes when I'm done washing my hair. And so I use that to detangle my hair, and then I put it because I, like I said, I only have 10 Flexi Rods, so I basically did 5 on each side of my head, and I split my head in 4 sections. And basically, what I did is I did 3 twists on either side in the back, and then 2 in the front, just so I would know which parts or like what, piece of hair I was going to put on the Flexi Rod. And then I went back in with the sacred foam um, for the Flexi Rods and just used those twists, just took the twist down, put the foam in, put the Flexi Rod on. Now, I'm not going to say my technique was perfect because it absolutely was not. I watched a bunch of videos on TikTok. The one that seemed kind of the easiest was like that candy cane method where like you fold the Flexi Rod like a candy cane and you put it at the root and then you wrap your hair around. It worked pretty well. Like I said, I will not say it's perfect. That's why I did not film it because like there's people who do it a whole lot better. You don't need to see me do it poorly. Um, anyway, like I wasn't sure like how much foam to use because I did not want to go like overboard, but I know that the more you use, it's easier for like your ends to wrap around. And I did notice on two of them, the end was a little bit frizzy. So when I was taking it down with my oil, I kind of made sure to like coil the ends, just to account for that little bit of frizz. But overall, they all came out pretty decent. Now, I know the other thing is that your hair should be completely dry so that you don't mess it up. So the thing is with foam is because you're usually only using it like on damp hair, foam dries very quickly. Um, and I usually, by the time I'm done styling my hair, like in twist or whatever, if I'm using like a foam or a mousse, it's pretty much half dry by the time I'm done. And the only section that's still kind of wet or damp is the last section that I've done. But I do have a hooded dryer. I also did this all late at night because I knew that I'd have the time to myself and I just didn't care. It was like 9:30 at night, almost 10. But anyway, so I've seen people who, they sit under the dryer for like 1 hour, 2 hours. Maybe they have more hair than me. I can't do that. I'm sorry. Because I figure air drying and the fact that it's foam is going to take care of some of it. So initially, I set my timer for like 35 minutes. I had my hooded dryer like on high heat. That was way too much. Now, the sacred foam, like all those new styling products, they all have heat protectant properties in them up to 450 degrees. So I wasn't like too worried about putting it on high because I had the foam in my hair, but it was like 9:30 at night. Like I said, I don't want to be sitting under no hot dryer. So about like halfway in, I switched it to medium heat, and then towards the end, I switched it to low heat. And it was pretty dry, and then I just like slept on it, and I used my I have a bonnet from Swirly Curly, so usually whenever I've straightened my hair or I am doing something like this where I have that's the word I'm looking for, tools like a perm rod or a flexi rod, something in my hair, I use my bonnet because it's bigger. Also, like when I'm wearing my afro, just because there's more things going on in my hair that requires a bigger bonnet. Otherwise, I just wear like my slap cap. Um, but yeah, so I just put it in there in that bonnet. Was it slightly uncomfortable to sleep on? Yeah. I bought new pillows though that are really plush, so it's like as soon as I got like in my little groove on my side, it was fine. Um, and then I took them down this morning, and everything was completely dry. So there you go. But yeah, so like I said, I'm probably gonna attempt to do a perm rod set next week. Um, it's been interesting because I've been seeing some commentary. So basically, since the month of April, um, I've been looking for a new job. I did get a new job, and I haven't like had to do like any like interview or like in person work since the pandemic. And like the last time I did like interviews, they were all in person and it was when my hair was still short. So like when I first like entered the workforce, like after college, that's when I had like my bald fade. So initially, the only version of me that people knew was a version who not only did I have natural hair, but I had very little hair. It was like a bald fade that I wore for like years. And it just so happened when I started working at my first job, there was an older black woman who wore her hair short. And it's funny how people are always watching you, right? Because she came to introduce herself to me while I was in training. She said, yeah, they said there's a new girl here who wears her hair like mine. Now, how y'all all know? People be watching you. But anyway, so I think, that's how my hair was for years. And then when I applied for my next job after that, I had a tapered cut. So, like I said, my whole entire, interview, getting a job process prior to now, I had very short natural hair. And that quite literally, you can't pick that apart. I mean, you can, but it's like you're not going to see my hair in any different state because it's short. Now, while at that job, I did start to grow my hair out. And so it was in like the very early in between stage before we all went to work from home for my previous job. And it's been growing ever since. So this is the first time I've like interviewed for jobs with longer natural hair. And then that meant I had to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do with my hair so that it's presentable and professional? So it's been an interesting experience. The first round of like interviews I did virtually, I had had my hair blown out. And I think I mentioned that in the video I did like a week in my blowout, what I did with my hair. Um, and then like when I interviewed, like the one interview I had in person, my hair was like in a twist out. And it wasn't even like a fresh twist out. It was still nice, but it wasn't even like a fresh one. Um, and then like for my ID picture, I used a picture of me with like a wash and go. And so yeah, and pretty much I've been wearing my hair in a twist out these past few weeks of my new job. And it's funny because like the first day, one of the first people I interacted with was another black woman, and the first thing she said was, "Ooh, I love the curls." So it's an interesting thing when you think about our natural hair in the workplace in the 21st century, because I always think back to like the 70s when pretty much everybody was wearing an afro. Newscasters were wearing afros. Celebrities were wearing afros. Everyday people were wearing afros. And so professionalism kind of went hand in hand with it, even though, not everybody liked them. But it's just the point is that a lawyer would have an afro, a doctor would have an afro. You know, Nichelle Nichols in the first Star Trek movie had an afro. So it's like, it's just interesting when you think about like that era of natural hair versus now where so much more emphasis is also placed on women and how we wear our hair. And my whole thing is like it's my hair. It's how it grows out my head, and you're just gonna have to accept it. So it's been interesting because it's like every time people have seen me so far, it's like been a little tweak. So, and quite honestly, I think people care more than they actually do, and they don't. But I do have to go in person for a couple of days, and I just don't see where anybody cares. So, I don't know. I'm experimenting and doing what I want. But yeah. But I did, like I said, and I think I mentioned in another video that if I did something new, I would film it. Like I said, I didn't film any of like the washing and styling and stuff. Mostly because I have videos where I've washed and styled my hair, and also because there are people who actually do a really, really good job on this type of style. And I'm like, y'all don't need to see, like I said, me do it poorly. But I did want to show the final results. Um, I think I'm gonna try and go, like I said, get a shot in some better light so you can see the curls better. Um, if the shot comes out good, that'll be the last thing you see. If not, this will be the last thing you see. And also, like, I have just been like busy, kind of like in a state, having a lot of emotions the first half of this year. So I haven't like really been posting regularly, but this will be like my first hair video in a while since my review of the Sacred Foam, and I'm going to get back on my movie reviews. And I'm trying to determine if I want to do a movie review because it's like Pride Month, because there are a lot of LGBT movies that I like really, really like from like childhood and current, but the internet sucks. And the internet won't let you have any opinions on anything. And so, like, I love these movies and I have lots of thoughts about them, but I'm like, I don't want to share my thoughts. Just, What I will say though is recently I watched The Boys in the Band again, and I love that movie. So it's based off of a Broadway play. So there's two adaptations. So there's the one from 1970 that's based off the original not screenplay. the original play that I think was from 1969. But I've seen that movie adaptation is so good. And then in 2018, they did a revival of the Broadway play with an all openly gay cast, and Jim Parsons from Big Bang Theory is in it. Zachary Quinto, who played Spock in Star Trek reboots, is in it. My favorite part of the reboot, though, is that Andrew Rannells and Tuck Watkins, who play the couple in the story, got together in real life. I don't know. I love stuff like that. I know some people don't like celebrity couples, but I think stuff like that is so cute. Anyway, and then they did a movie adaptation that came out in 2020 on Netflix. So, like I said, I've seen both. I love both. It's so good. I love um, movies about different like marginalized groups where it's like it's just that group, and so then you start to get like all the nitty gritty of like the internal things that you have when you're a part of that group. So it's the same reason why I like Get on the Bus, a movie about black men going to the Million Man March, or a movie like School Days that deals with like HBCUs and colorism, like anything that takes a group that experiences discrimination outside that group and all the trauma that comes with that, but then you get them away from the majority and it's like it's just them, and so you assume where it's like, oh well, we're all the same. Well, we're not. No group is a monolith. And that's what makes The Boys in the Band so good, because this is set in like 1969. These are gay men. They have to meet secretly because the whole premise is that they're meeting for a friend's birthday. And it's just so fascinating. But there's one character, Bernard, that's a black man, and he's from Detroit, and it's just like his story is so interesting. Um, all of like the storytelling of it from beginning to end is it's like so good. Like I said, because it's that because in the years following it, people had criticism for it because the characters are a lot of them very self-loathing and self-hating, but it's also like it's a product of its time. Um, and it's just so interesting because it's like all of their stories, like I said, Bernard, his backstory, the character Emery, who's like the most like effeminate or flamboyant, his backstory, like his one is like, because there's a scene where they're playing this game where they're supposed to call the person that they feel they've truly loved. And in the 1970 version, like when Emery's character is giving his like little soliloquy about the person, it's so good. And I think the most interesting part to me is, after everything has kind of like blown up and they done had all the moments that they've had, because it's very tense. In the end, the main character and the friend that they threw the birthday for are kind of, they're not having more confrontation as much as the friend whose birthday it is, Harold, is basically letting um, the other character, Michael, know that he knows him, kind of like, I know the real you. And what I find so interesting about it is he's telling him, you know, you're gay and you don't want to be. And if you wanted, you could really try like really hard to be straight and have a straight life, but you'll always be this too. And I thought that was so interesting because it's like you just are who you are. And you know, you can try and suppress it, which kind of makes me think about, I did a review on Heated Rivalry where he's telling, where Shane's character is telling his mom, he tried really hard not to be that way. It's like, you can, and that's soul crushing. But at the end of the day, you are who you are. You will always, like you said, you will always be this too. And I thought that was so interesting. All right, now this turned into a weird mini review at the end of this hair video, so there will be um, time markers if you want to skip this, but just so that's my little review for Pride Month because, like I said, I love that movie. Because I watched the Netflix version last week. I'm gonna watch the 1970 version today. But on to my nerdy stuff. I also watched Batman and Robin again for the first time in like years, you know, the one with George Clooney. So I'm definitely going to do a review of that because, yeah, things that you watch when you're 11 versus when you're 40, you're going to have different thoughts. So that will be coming soon. But I do want to thank you for watching this hair video of me showing you my Flexi Rod set and this mini review of the boys in the band. And like I said, thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Hello again. So I did say that if I could get better lighting, I would give you a closer look. So here you go. This is a closer look of how the Flexi Rod came out, the curls. And like I mentioned, you can still see the texture at the top of my head. But this is a little bit of a clearer picture of how it turned out. Like I said, I really liked it. So this will be at the end of the other video where I've already like signed off and everything. So this is like a second sign off just to give a better look. But yeah, thanks for watching.